afternoon. Moss here. Let's have a look at what I would love to see in 4th edition. 4th edition is coming up around the corner, if I remember correctly. I think we're expecting it in the summer. So let's have a look. Thanks to all the patrons. You guys are the real heroes. So for green skins in particular, so this is of course for Iron Jaws, Big Wah, Kill Boys, Cruel Boys, and the rest of them, including Gloomspite Gits as well. So don't remove Bone Splitters from the game. Everyone is now convinced that Bone Splitters are going to be removed from Age of Sigmar in 4th edition, and they're going to have a resurgence in the old world. And I would, if that's the case, if Games Workshop is indeed planning on removing Bone Splitters from the Auric Warclans book in AOS, then I would kindly ask that some of the more popular models are rebranded into the existing book of Auric Warclans. Right now we have a very, with Cruel Boys and with Ironjaws, we have a very like Gork and Mork setup, but I don't want to lose the aesthetic and the lore and the of Bone Splitters. And I think it's pretty easily done. All that you need to do is have savage versions of different units. For example, a Wurgog Prophet can just be a savage weird knob shaman. Done. Easy. We can even keep the War Scroll the same because I love me a Wurgog Prophet. It's a great model, and I would hate for a new edition to come around and lose some of these very fun, interesting pieces from Big Wah. And I guess Wurgog Prophet's actually it, right? Like that's actually the end of the list is Wurgog Prophet, but I could very well see like Savage Gorgruntas, right? Lower their armor save, up their hit points, like, you know, I don't know, like mix it up. I think that could be fun. So if they do remove Bone Splitters from the game as an army, I would love to see it folded into the rest of the book. Cool. Cruel Boys, give us some new units. We need mobility and we need an anvil unit. One thing that I thought was really cool, so I've been sort of reading up and getting into Sylvaneth lately, and I can't remember what they're called, but Sylvaneth have this unit that when they unleash hell, they can then immediately make a move. Gossamer archers, Gossamid archers. Yeah, let's see. Forest fighter. Nope. After this unit, it's called Zephyr Spites. Something like that. After this unit has received the Unleash Hell command and all of its shooting attacks have been resolved, if this unit is within 3 inches of any enemy unit, roll the die. On a 2-up, this unit can retreat. So then they get to make a move, and their move is 12 inches. So I would love to see, like, Cruel Boys don't need to have an anvil in the same way that Ard Boys are an anvil for Ironjaws, right? Ard Boys just have a 3-up save. And then, you know, they have some tricks where they can get a little bit, they can get like a better rally and all this, right? So I am not suggesting that it's the same. Like, I don't think we need Gut Rippers that have a 3-up save, but I would love to see, even if something like Gut Rippers had the ability to, you know, reposition themselves, just make it harder to be charged. That's a way of having an anvil unit, right? It's like, it's a way of keeping your opponent away from you, a way of keeping your opponent sort of guessing where you're going to go and what's going to happen. So something like that. I've talked about this before in previous Cruel Boy videos. You know, this idea that the Gut Rippers are lost in the mist, and that when you go to charge them, it turns out they're not actually there. That they you know, have just used their tricks to manipulate you, and you think they are where they are, but they're not. They're actually somewhere else. And so you go to charge, and you run into the mist, and there's nobody there. You can hear the laughter coming from all around you, and so on and so on. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm a 3-up save, 3 wound unit. You can have something more, you know, flavorful, more Cruel Boy-y, but I definitely think that we need something. And something mobile, some cavalry units, something like that. We need a Nash pack, right? We need Nash Tooth Riders. We need something to the like. We need something that has some speed. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know this. We've talked about this at length on this channel. And just like Cruel Boys need a better book just in general. And for Gloomspite Gits, I think that the spiders need some love. The large spiders. There's so many of them, and their models are absolutely awesome, but their War Scrolls kind of suck, right? They kind of suck. We have the Arachnarok Spider with Flinger. We have Spiderfang War Party. We have Skitterstrand Arachnarok. We have you know, and then there's a couple hero ones, right? Scuttle Boss on Gigantic Spider. Yeah, Web Spinner. I mean, Web Spinner Showman's not a big spider, but all those big spiders need a little bit of love. They need something to make them better. They need something to make them more interesting so that we actually want to include them in the army. Because right now, except for Conan, no one else is playing spiders, right? No one else can really make it work. So, same thing with big pigs. The big pigs need love. You can check out my other videos on how to improve Iron Jaws and how to make the big pigs work, but they're almost there. They're almost there. They just need a little bit of something for them to be good. Just a little bit of something. I also think that in the Orclands book, I think Iron Jaws should be at a default 3-up save, Cruel Boys on a 4-up save, and Bone Splitters, if they exist in the book, on a 5-up save. We just need slightly better saves to kind of catch up with the rest of the armies, you know? So, and that seems okay. People have varying opinions on like 3-up, 4-up, and 5-up saves and what should sort of be the default. These are conversations that go hand in hand with Rend. Should most units, you know, like not cavalry, but battle line units, should most frontline, you know, dudes with 2 wounds and 2 attacks have 1 Rend or 0 Rend, right? 1 Rend or 0 Rend. I personally lean towards 1 Rend because I prefer when things actually happen in the game. So if you have lower saves and higher Rend, things die, but it definitely gives the advantage to the player whose turn it is presently, and it makes, you know, combat order matter a lot more. But I just kind of feel like Iron Jaws need to have a 3-up save. Gorgruntas should have a 3-up save. They should be tanky, because that's kind of the whole aesthetic of the army. But I mean, overall, and please don't remove Big Wa. I know that it's going to be like when the new Orc book comes out, there's going to be a shakeup between what was and what is, and I don't want to lose Big Wa. I think that would be a huge mistake on the part of GW if they decided to remove Big Wa. There's nothing cooler than just taking all your favorite orc models, sticking them in a list, shaking it up, and throwing them on the table to wreak some havoc on your opponent. I'm a big fan. You can balance it a little bit differently. Obviously, if you have 2 books, and then there's this one that's a hybrid of them both, then there's a decent chance that the hybrid is going to be the best because you have access to more models and more units and more combinations, and it's also harder to balance. So a very easy way of doing that is just including on some of the war scrolls, if this unit is in a Iron Jaws army, then it gets this ability. And if it's not, then it doesn't. So you can take things and make them sort of uniquely Iron Jaws and then remove them when they're played in Big Wa. That seems like a reasonable balance to me. So, but I mean, overall, like I'm relatively happy with the Orc book now. I feel like I like it. Like I like it. It's good. It just needs to be up-tuned a little bit. That's it. So in terms of the rest of the game, you know, the game overall, there's a few things that I'm kind of curious about what you think. So what do you think about 25mm bases? See, here's the problem with 25mm bases. 25mm is less than an inch, which means you can take a string of 25mm bases and you can line them up in a single rank, and they can go from one end of the map to the other. So, for example, you could take a double reinforced unit of Hobgrots, and you could just string them out in a big line. And the only thing that you're really concerned about is if there's an effect or an ability that pulls a model out that your opponent gets to choose. So this could be something like Snatch and Grab, or can't remember what it's called, from the Sludge Raker Beast, right? I think it's probably called Snatch and Grab. I can't remember. Anyway, so that's the only thing that you really have to be worried about. If someone does that to you, it means that you're going to lose the half of them, right? So, and they can kind of fight in 2 ranks, because again, if you are fighting in 2 ranks and you have a 1-inch attack, only the 25mm bases can get in and fight. So I'm kind of torn on this. Sometimes I feel like it's interesting and cool because it's sort of a playstyle or a rule that is only used by 25mm bases, and then as soon as they're a little bit bigger, it kind of changes it. It gives you that impression that things are flowing over you, and there's like that green tide. Like Squigs. Squigs is a good example. They fight in 2 ranks. And they can leave a little tail behind so that they can be close to the units that buff them and everything. So I don't know how I feel about it. I go back and forth. I don't know. Second thing that I would love to see changed in 4th edition is a differentiation between the beginning of the hero phase and the hero phase. I feel like when I play people, just in general, that a lot of players mix these two phases up. That they do things that state must be done at the beginning of the hero phase, in between spell casts, right? And I almost feel like the beginning of the hero phase is a phase all into itself. There's a lot of things that are happening there. Picking a battle tactic, rolling primal dice, heroic actions, and then other abilities. So for example, the Wurgog Prophet's Death Mask or Wurgog Mask ability happens at the beginning of the hero phase. And there's a lot of stuff that happens at the beginning of the hero phase. But if you were to split the hero phase into two phases, you could call the first one either the command phase or the general phase or something like that, where the general in your list is doing things such as generating command points, picking a battle tactic, doing heroic actions, and so on. And then you could have the hero phase or the magic phase, where the other heroes on the table are doing their actions, where the other heroes on the table are doing their Wurgog masks and casting their spells. And then you can say something like, at the beginning of the hero phase, as opposed to so I'm going to call them the command phase and the hero phase. So you do the command phase first and you pick your battle tactics and all that, and then you can say things like, at the beginning of the hero phase, the Wurgog Prophet gets to do their Wurgog Mask ability. So it means you have to do that ability after you've selected your battle tactics, because right now you can do the Wurgog Mask ability before you've selected your battle tactics, and depending on how well your mask rolls go, if you have a Cruel Boys General, you can pick Take a Dat, You Suckers, with more information. If you deal 10 mortal wounds in that phase and you don't take 10, you can just be like, okay, Take Dat, You Suckers, I end my turn, I get my battle tactic. So to me, it seems like it's a little bit confusing there, right? So I think the beginning phases of the game just have to be cleaned up a little bit, and I believe that would help, especially with new players who are like, well, all these things happen in the hero phase, like in what order do they happen, and so on and so on. And then last thing, well, two more things actually, but I feel like battle tactics need some work. Battle tactics have to stay in the game. That secondary scoring is vital. It changes up everything in this game. I've played games casually with players that are new, and we've just ignored battle tactics, and it just feels odd. It just feels weird, because all we're doing is fighting over objectives. So the fightier army is going to get the most points. The army that has the most boots on the ground is going to get the most points. The number of objectives on the table matters a lot. So you have to have battle tactics. However, having book battle tactics to me right now seems problematic. My wife plays Stormcast Eternals. Their book has poor battle tactics. I play, Big Wa, I play Gloomspite Gits, I play Greenskins, and the battle tactics in our books range from good to excellent. It's one of the reasons that I think that Big Wa is doing so well right now. Battle tactics, Gobsprak, and then just having a really high damage output and a toolbox army. Like those are the reasons I think that it's doing well, but battle tactics are certainly part of that. When you have Take Dat, You Suckers, when you have Sneak Up, when you have Wait For It, Lads, you don't even have to look at the General's Handbook for battle tactics until almost to the end. Really, in Big Wa, you only maybe need a couple. And that's if things are kind of not working out super great for you. But for the most part, you can kind of get a lot of book battle tactics. And then Stormcasts get none. So to me, it seems like it is such a hyper important part of the game that it's not easy to balance at all. So imagine this. There's some books that have good tactics and some books that don't have tactics. Okay, what would you need to do to ensure that all books have good tactics so that everyone is on the same page? You would probably have to be on the generous side of even for most books, so that you're sort of guaranteeing that everyone's going to have 3 battle tactics from their book that they can consistently achieve playing their games. So then everyone just has good tactics all the time, and then everyone's scoring all their tactics all the time. It becomes really difficult to deny tactics of your opponent. So that's a problem. because if you're on the other side of, like, if you're trying to be just a little bit stingy, you're still going to have books that have it and books that don't. And that's a problem. So my best idea so far is to do battle tactics that revolve around the actual maps themselves, that evolve around the actual plans, right? I'm not sure what we call them. I call them maps. So it's like, okay, so let's take, for example, Geomantic Pulse. It's like, it's a good example. It's like you get battle tactics for controlling the pulse and adjacent pulses. So you could do something else too, right? Like there's a lot of room for interesting design of how players score on specific maps. And if you have like 10, 15 maps, you know, and then, so I've kind of passed this idea around to a few different people, and I get some criticism, some feedback, and it's like, well, then the maps are either going to be very generic and the samey, or some maps will hyper favor some armies over others, because of course we're playing a game where you have like a Croak Seraphon list, and then you have an Ironjaws list where we're playing very, very differently. And so how do you have tactics and maps that balance between very different armies? And my answer to that was, then in tournament play, you just need to have some kind of a veto system, right? Like I play a lot of StarCraft 2, and I've played lots of Dota and other games like this, like competitive turn-based, real-time strategy games. And that's one of the ways that they help balance maps is players can veto maps. They can say, well, I'm not playing that map. So imagine at a tournament, you know, the TOs get this General's Handbook, and there's a whole bunch of maps they're in, and the TOs decide, okay, well, we're going to get rid of, like, you know, a bunch of the battle plans, because they don't feel very balanced. And then on table 1 or round 1, we're going to say, well, here are the 3 battle plans that we chose. Each player vetoes one, and then you play the one that's there. To me, that doesn't seem like it would be very difficult to do in a competitive environment at a tournament. It's like, yeah, there's just, you know, our Games Workshop has released with this General's Handbook 15 different battle plans. So we're going to eliminate 5, and then we're going to take the other 10, and we're going to divide them up across 5 rounds, and right, or something like that, right? Like my math didn't really work out there, but you kind of get the idea, something like that. But I feel like battle tactics have to be revisited and fine-tuned a little bit. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks to all the patrons. You guys are the real heroes. Like, subscribe. Wah.